So I finally finished Mafia the Old Country, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed. When I made my first impressions video, I thought the game was pretty solid, but as I progressed, I kept thinking, that's it?
That's it?
And it felt like everything I was slightly disappointed in kept getting ramped up and up and up. There are definitely fun moments, but some parts of the game feel predictable and don't quite live up to the early promise that I thought the game had. I also found myself feeling a bit catfished by what I had seen in the beginning of the game. So unlike my first impressions video, I'll be talking about the story in this one, so consider your official spoiler alert officially in effect. Let's dive in and reconsider the question. Is this game worth buying? Let's talk about it. The story takes place in 1920 Sicily, where our main character, Enzo Favaro, works as a forced laborer in a mine. After pulling off the ultimate prison break from forced labor, he lands in the arms of the Teresi crime family, running smuggling jobs, busting heads, and trying to climb up the mob ladder without getting shot along the way. While Enzo's climbing ranks in the family, he's also climbing ranks in the Don's daughter's heart. Yeah, you heard me. The man is running two campaigns at once, becoming a made man and becoming the son-in-law of the Don. It's safe to say the campaign bites him in the ass as it goes horribly south. Usually the best part of the Mafia games, in my opinion, is the story. I've said this before, but Mafia 1 also felt super cinematic, like you were in an actual mob movie, but Mafia the Old Country also feels cinematic, but in the most cliche, predictable way possible. Literally, the second the Don's daughter showed up on screen, I called it. I turned to chat and I said, yep, she's gonna fall in love with me. And guess what? She did. And the second she kissed our main character, I said, that's a bad idea. It's gonna blow up all over his face. And what happened? It blew up in his face. That's exactly what happened. And I wasn't the only one. My chat and I were basically counting down the seconds until Enzo got murdered falling in love with the Don's daughter. Like, bro thought he was in a romance, but he was actually just speedrunning his own funeral. We shouldn't be able to easily predict the largest plot point in the entire story. The only part that caught me off guard here is the Don's daughter ending up pregnant. I didn't think they'd take it that far. And you know what? I was pleasantly surprised. I thought that was a cool twist to the story, if that makes sense. And when we get to the climax, what should have been this tense, dramatic showdown where Enzo finally pays the price for his choices, or he finds a way to convince the Don, what happens? The writers go, nope, what if? Volcano. I'm literally not kidding. Enzo is about to get shanked and he's done for, and then boom, a freaking volcano explodes and saves him. Like, what the hell? This man didn't get saved by his wit, his planning, not even a lucky gun jam or anything. Nah. The literal forces of nature decided to intervene. Like, not today, Enzo. I got you, fam. This is the worst kind of plot armor, in my opinion. It's not clever. It's not earned. It's just straight up an explosion. I swear, my chat and I sat there in disbelief. Like, really? That's the best you can come up with? Now, don't get me wrong. The story isn't all that bad. There's definitely things I like. For one, the game actually does a really good job at capturing what feels to be a pretty authentic 1900s Sicily setting. The villages, the architecture, the little details in the markets and the countryside, it all feels lived in and believable. And speaking of the countryside, it still looks really beautiful. A pretty game helps to sell the authenticity of the setting. And credit where the credit is due, the actors really did sell it. The accents, the delivery, even the small little character moments, they all contribute to the old world Sicilian vibe that the story was going for. And honestly, if the writing matched the atmosphere and performances, I really think this could have been something special. Gameplay-wise, the shooting combat still felt fun. It took me a while to get used to the aiming and the reloading mechanics, but once it clicked, it wasn't that bad. And with that being said, I noticed something. The shotgun isn't that good. It's basically the only gun worth using. Like, if I didn't use a shotgun, the enemies would just absorb bullets like they were Terminators. But with a shotgun, instant delete button. Boom. Problem solved. And speaking of enemies, oh man, the AI is so dumb. I don't know why the AI is this stupid. I lost count of how many times they just sprinted straight at me like, yes, bullets please, right here in the chest. It honestly felt less like fighting mobsters and more like pest control with a license to carry. Fun? Yeah. Smart? Not even close. On the melee side, the knife fights were actually pretty entertaining. Timing blocks and dodges while slashing and stabbing felt pretty satisfying, and I like the rhythm of it. That being said, almost every boss fight was in the form of a knife fight, and because of that, it quickly became predictable when a boss fight was coming. You would see the little setup cutscene where they're both grabbing for their knives, and you immediately know it was time for another stabathon. It got to the point where the fight started feeling a little bit repetitive, and the impact of each knife duel was definitely lessened as a result of this. I wish they'd mix it up a bit, maybe some environmental hazards, some ranged enemies, or a bigger variety of the boss mechanics in general, so that when a knife fight did happen, it actually felt more intense and dangerous. And the stealth. Don't even get me started on the damn stealth. Back in my first impressions video, I thought it was bland but tolerable, but by the end of the game, I straight up hated it. Here's the thing. The stealth works technically fine. There's no glitches, no bugs. It responds perfectly well. But that's really the only thing that I thought was okay about it. Like, there's almost no variety. All I found myself doing over and over was just sneaking up behind a guy and spamming the stealth button to choke him out, and voila, the enemy goes down. If you're feeling fancy, you can throw a knife, and that's really all I got to experience when it came to the stealth. There's no like unique takedowns, environmental tricks, nothing that makes you feel clever. It's not bad, it's just boring. Maybe I've been spoiled a little too much by old school Assassin's Creed and modern Hitman games, but it definitely feels like the stealth took some inspiration from these games, but just the bare minimum, and there's so much that could have been included that wasn't. And finally, the open world. I honestly don't even know why this game bothers with one. The story would have flown so much better if they just took us straight to the next mission instead of forcing us to ride from point A to point B every time. And thank God for the occasional skipping ride mechanic. Sure, the scenery is nice. That's one of my favorite parts of the game. Sicily does look beautiful, but the open world itself has basically nothing to do with it. No side quests, no hidden characters, no interesting spots to explore. You're just riding around staring at pretty buildings and thinking, cool, can we move on now? Overall, the gun and knife combat in Mafia the Old Country I think is actually pretty entertaining. The shooting clicks after a bit, and the knife fights can be satisfying, but unfortunately, it comes wrapped in a package of predictable storytelling, boring stealth, and what seems to be an empty open world. Honestly, I don't think it's better than Mafia 1 or 2. I don't really think it's worth playing at $50, which is insane. And that said, it will probably go on sale eventually, and if you're a Mafia fan, I definitely think it's worth picking up once it goes on sale. Just don't expect anything too groundbreaking in my opinion. I'm giving Mafia the Old Country a 6 out of 10 plot score. Yeah, it's crazy. I actually rated Animaniacs The Great Edgar Hunt above it, but that's legitimately how I feel. I was a huge fan of both Mafia 1 and Mafia 2, and they also had their problems like empty open worlds, and it's just a shame that the successor to the series couldn't build on some of those older issues and give us a little bit more. If you enjoyed my review on Mafia the Old Country, smash that like button, subscribe, join in the chaos. We've got more questionable decisions, explosions, and bad plot twists, along with more reviews coming your way. It's Plot Armor Games signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.